future programs. And we do have flyers out there for the rest of the series. We have one that looks like this that tells you everything that's coming up for the rest of the series. And then we have individual flyers. So next week is our spring break, so there won't be any events then. But then after that, we have Rhodey Poems of Journey and Home. And that's Major Jackson. He's an award-winning poet coming all the way from Vermont. So hopefully you'll come back for that. And then following that, we have the Chicano Messenger of Hip Hop and Spoken Word. So that's Paul Flores. It should be a lot of fun. So please pick up some flyers and put your name on the mailing list. So today, I've been wanting to have Nasana Engel come here for a long time. She's my yoga teacher. She's a certified yoga instructor who has explored yoga practices for over 20 years. Her styles of hatha yoga include let-it-go yoga, restorative yoga, and yoga therapy. Come on down. Come on all the way down so we can be intimate here. Since 2007, Nasana has taught ongoing classes, including 7 years with Ventura and Oxnard Parks and Recreation, and for those departments, and she currently instructs yoga on the beach near the sea 3 times a week in Ventura. So that is really great. If you can imagine doing yoga while you are watching the ocean in the background, it's quite wonderful. She's also a Reiki, cranial sacral, and yoga therapy practitioner. So let's give her a warm welcome. Thank you, Shirley. Namaste.
I have put together a PowerPoint presentation, and it was a new experience for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can take the mic, will come off if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'll be okay. Thank you. This is the first time that I'm giving a presentation like this, so it's new to me. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to just maybe imagine that I'm teaching a hatha yoga class. But I'd like to start out by what's wonderful for us when we begin our yoga is that we take a deep breath in just to begin. So I'd like to do that together where we just take a breath in, feel the cool breath enter the nose, fill the belly, and then exhale, emptying the chest, emptying the belly. And again, exhale. We begin to feel our seated posture right where we are, our feet on the floor. The breath helps us become real present. So again, another breath. And exhale. Relaxing the shoulders away from the ears, softening the jaw, and smiling. And bringing our awareness now just back to our own natural breath and enjoying the experience of being right here. So, I will begin, and then I'll have a comment or two on each photo. I started with the explosion of yoga, the popularity of yoga in the United States, in the West. Last year was declared the first International Yoga Day by the United Nations, and it occurred on June 21st, the solstice, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world in many, many countries participated. This is New York City, and it looks like to me that they may have just ended a class and they're now reverently namaste, which means the spirit in me honors the spirit in you. Also, the spirit in me acknowledges the spirit in you, greets the spirit in you. So I move on now to this is what International Yoga Day looked like in Paris. And that's pretty cool. Underneath the Eiffel Tower, and it looks like they were coming in or out of a bridge pose. And then International Yoga Day, China. They have very good alignment there, and they're setting up for a type of warrior pose. Aligning the arms first. And this is Hatha Yoga. The postures are Hatha. When we hear the word Hatha, it implies postures, the asanas. And this is what looked like in India. And this is Prime Minister Narendra, and they are in a wonderful pose, the final pose called Shavasana, which we use the Sanskrit term because corpse pose is not very appealing. But it's also called, that's what it means, corpse pose. But it's very relaxing. I taught children with their mommies yoga one time, and surprisingly, their favorite pose was Shavasana. We did all kinds of fun things, jello legs and frog, but boy, they loved going into Shavasana. So that was very interesting to discover that. And there was the biggest gathering in India ever of yoga. That day, over 35,000 people participated in yoga. So now we begin to move to its roots. Yoga was birthed in India, and it is ancient. This is a statue of Lord Shiva, one of the deities, godheads, and he is considered the Lord of creation, preservation, and dissolution. Notice, of course, he has a mudra that he holds. These are mudras. When the hands are in a position, it's called a mudra. And he has more than 2 arms, and he's in Lotus. And then we move on. This is a very brief history of yoga. Yoga can be traced back 5,000 years. Originally, its sacred texts were transmitted orally, then transcribed on fragile palm leaves that were easily damaged, destroyed, or lost. The word yoga was first mentioned in the oldest sacred text, the Rig Veda. Yoga was slowly refined and developed by the Brahmin and Rishis, called mystic seers, who documented their practices and beliefs in the Upanishads, a work containing over 200 scriptures, and the most renowned of the yogic scriptures is the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe many of you have heard of the Bhagavad Gita. Patanjali codified the complete system of yoga around the 2nd century. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are a systematic presentation. It describes the path of Raja Yoga, royal, or classical yoga. Patanjali organized the practice of yoga into an 8-fold path, containing the steps and stages towards Samadhi or enlightenment. He is called the father of yoga, and his Yoga Sutras strongly influenced most styles. Yoga found its way west in the late 1800s and early 1900s by yoga masters. Swami Vivekananda is considered the pioneer to introduce yoga through his lectures on the universality of the world's religions in 1893. And there is a picture of him, Swami Vivekananda. And I'll move on. Definition of yoga. The word yoga is derived from the Sanskrit root verb yuj, which means to join or unite, literally to yoke together. It signifies the joining of the individualized soul with spirit. Yoga is a practice to develop physically, mentally, and spiritually. The fulfillment is within the practice. Yoga is a science. Its results are empirical. Naturally, the yogi experiences the unfoldment of their human potential. And this studio, the setting looks like that. Perhaps they're on a yoga retreat. They have their posture, the asanas, their asana, straight spine, and settling in with their shawls and their eyes closed. So it looks like a meditation retreat to me. Hatha Yoga. Ha means sun, Tha means moon. And these are the styles that are popular, especially in the West. And Hatha, again, are the poses. That's the aspect of the Eightfold Path that are the poses. This is the first yoga, Hatha Yoga, called Hatha because it's a classical practice, is one that I use the most, that I practice the most and I introduce people to, because it's easy on the body, yet it's very transforming. People who have injuries or think they're not flexible or are returning from yoga from long absence do well with this practice, because they can just stretch just to their edge and no further, and that's what's encouraged in yoga, a stretch, an edge stretch, not pain, but definitely challenging ourselves to stretch a little further. Also, the instructor can modify and adapt poses for people with conditions. So this is what we practice on the beach primarily, and it's a traditional practice of asanas, yoga postures, and pranayama, yoga breathing exercises that yoke the breath with our awareness in a pose. This is an ancient practice. The poses are held longer, preparing the mind and body for deeper spiritual practice, such as meditation. Then a very popular one these days is called vinyasa in the studios. This yoga synchronizes the breath with vigorous style based on a rapid flow through sun salutations. It is also referred to as a flow class, continuous flow from one posture to the next. Ashtanga actually literally means 8 limbs, which is the Eightfold Path. A set sequence of postures, always in the same order, typically fast-paced, vigorous, and physically challenging. Power yoga, very similar to vinyasa style yoga, but the instructor can mix the poses any way they choose. Bikram, you may have heard a lot about Bikram, hot yoga. Yoga consisting of the same copyrighted 26 postures and 2 breathing techniques, performed in the same order for 90 minutes in a room heated to 105 degrees with a humidity of 40%. And it's not for the faint-hearted, but there are many people who practice Bikram. It's especially good for the synovial fluids in the spine, getting the fluids flowing, opening up the pump, bathing the joints. Very good for that. So, and it could be performed on one's own without being so rigorous or the demands that you might face in a studio. Iyengar yoga. Poses are held much longer in an effort to pay close attention to the precise musculoskeletal alignment within each pose. Iyengar style uses props such as blocks, belts, bolsters, chairs, and blankets. Iyengar was responsible for making yoga accessible to everyone, people who could not perform the poses without some sort of support, chairs, blankets, bolsters. So that was wonderful, because so many more people can practice yoga now without fear of injury and actually reap the benefits. Restorative yoga, a relaxing passive yoga that allows the body to relax and release into a gentle stretch, held and supported for long periods of time, 10 to 20 minutes. It uses a variety of props, especially bolsters, straps, and blankets. This style of yoga helps the student to completely let go. I also studied restorative yoga, and what's wonderful about it is that it triggers, in those poses for that period of time, immune responses. So there can be deep healing, relaxing at that depth of that level. You see here a warrior 3 pose next to the ocean, I believe. Beautiful. Yoga practices. I've included, it shows meditation. They have a mudra, and it's very formal. The spine's as tall as it can be. And I believe down here, this young girl is practicing an interiorization of concentration. So those are wonderful practice and part of the Eightfold Path. And up in the corner is the Hatha Yoga boat pose. And below, these 2 yogis or yoginis are performing sun salutations. The Eightfold Path. I'd like to introduce the Eightfold Path to you. Number 1, Yama, moral conduct, non-injury to others, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, and non-covetousness. Niyama, religious observances, purity of body and mind, contentment in all circumstances, self-discipline, self-study, which is contemplation, and devotion to God and Guru. Asana, which are posture, right posture. Pranayama, control of prana, the breath, the subtle life currents in the body. Pratyahara, interiorization through withdrawal of the senses from external objects. And number 6, dharana, focused concentration, holding the mind to one thought or object. 7 is dhyana, meditation, absorption in the vast perception of God in one of his infinite aspects or her infinite aspect. Bliss, peace, cosmic light, cosmic sound, love, wisdom, all pervading throughout the whole universe. And then 8 is Samadhi, super consciousness, experience of the oneness of the individualized soul with cosmic spirit. What I'd like to say is that the first 2 are the foundations of the Eightfold Path, a foundation for the yogi as they embark on this path of unfoldment, of practice. And my experience has been, as I've practiced meditation, interiorization, pranayama, and meditation, that the yama and niyamas have become more fundamental within me. There's an understanding I have now about the importance of yama and niyama that I just took action on before, but didn't really feel it so much. But what's happened to me is that through meditation and these practices, my former concepts of self and other has dissolved more. So it makes it much easier to want to be a good person. And the last 3, 6, 7, and 8, are actually yoked together called samyama. They go together. And the way to achieve interiorization is through the pranayama. Then moves on from the pranayama, then all of a sudden the state becomes more interiorized, withdrawing from the external objects. And I started with 5 minutes a day. That's how I started with these practices. I listened to chants, and then I'd chant the Om, and I would just try for 5 minutes a day, and then my mind actually started to look forward to it, looked forward to the time meditating. I'll move on. Benefits of yoga. Here we have Warrior One in a group, and they're next to a river, and it might be in India, actually. And this again, the postures are Hatha Yoga, when we are performing postures. And this is Warrior One. And then come down, and we have Partner Yoga, which is really enjoyable. And I love that seniors are obviously these women using the chairs. I can tell by the belts hanging in the wall in the background. This is an Iyengar studio. So that Iyengar is the one who introduced the props so that these women could perform yoga and benefit. And then in the far right corner we have meditation. These women are very enjoying themselves, the two women that have their feet together in partner yoga. A lot of joy there. And I'd like to share with you the benefits of pranayama. Prana is Sanskrit for life force, and yama means to control. Studies, these are actually based on studies, many, many years of studies. Increases oxygen supply to cells and tissues, reduces anxiety and depression, lowers and stabilizes blood pressure, increases energy levels, relaxes muscles, and decreases feelings of stress and overwhelm. And because pranayama is considered life force as well as breath, my son helped me put this together, this PowerPoint, and he found this artwork online. So it's a wonderful way to imagine that life force that we draw on. And I'd like to take a little break right now and show you, I said in my flyer that I would introduce to you a way to energize in your day. You can briefly stop and energize your body and brain. And my experiences, and so what we're doing here is we're just directing our life force. We're consciously directing it. And I'm going to show you first. And what it is, you are sitting. Oh, there, I can take it off. I lift, I pop. So you can do it in your chair, you can stand if you're out in the world, if you're feeling fatigued, if you're in one of your classes, if you're teaching, if you're a student, no matter what. This is a wonderful way to energize. And the way we do it is we express all the breath, and then I take a double inhalation through my nose, and then I'm gently just sweeping up, tensing gently, the medium, all the way up, right back of my neck, and it's a bit of a vibrate, and then a double exhalation through the throat, slowly release tension. And what this does, and when you slowly release it, not only do you notice the contrast, you feel the energy and the life force kind of not flood the body, but gently go through the body. So we become mindful where we feel it, in the arms and the fingers. So let's try this together. Okay, so express all the breath. You can do that by a double exhalation as well if you'd like to. Now through the nose, double inhalation. And then it takes time to tune in, it's okay, just sweeping up with tension, keeping your gaze a little lifted, and then vibrate, and then double exhalation through the throat, and release slowly. Notice if you feel the energy. Do any of you feel the energy? Cindy's here, and she's in my yoga class, so we do this often. It takes time. Now the other wonderful thing about this yoga breath that I just showed you, energizing, called energization, is that if you have a limb, a condition, maybe muscle soreness, maybe an injury, maybe some condition in particular to that day. You can just generalize that area, and you would bring a gentle double inhalation in, and you would just tense that area of the body very gently. And then just keep your mind there, just bring some awareness. Like my shoulder, I get trouble with my shoulder blade, and so I'll use this and I'll gently just tense that area. And then I feel the energy, and it helps relax, and it really does help recharge and give you a lift in your energy. These practices that I showed you, this practice. So I'll keep breathing, we'll keep breathing. And move on. So these are some of the benefits known of the pranayama. Alex Gray, I'll bet a lot of you recognize his artwork. His depictions are of the energy bodies, of our energy bodies. And it includes the 7 major chakras, the base chakra, which is red, the creative chakra, which is orange, seat of power, which is yellow behind the navel, the heart, which is green, the throat, which is blue, and then the illumination, which is all colors of the seat of enlightenment. So the benefits, there are very wonderful physical benefits and mental and emotional benefits, though, to meditation that make it worthwhile. Benefits of meditation: improves concentration. These are studies as well that have been studied for a long time. Increases self-awareness, increases happiness, increases acceptance, benefits cardiovascular and immune functions. Meditators have neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change functionally and literally structurally on the basis of environmental input. Experienced meditators exhibit high levels of gamma wave activity. Meditators display the ability after meditation to automatically control their thoughts and reactions to stimulus. So another way to put the neuroplasticity is that meditators who meditate have a practice that are consistent actually grow gray matter, new brain cells. I believe mostly in the frontal area, and there's plenty of studies on that. And it's very beneficial, by the way, to have new cells, especially for memory and creativity. Okay, so I want to go over the benefits of hatha, the postures, hatha yoga postures, which are also called asanas. Research suggests that carefully adapted yoga poses can reduce low back pain and improve function, improves quality of life, reduces stress, lowers heart rate, and lowers blood pressure, helps relieve anxiety, depression, and insomnia, improves physical fitness, strength, and flexibility, and improves balance, which is very important as we age, especially. And yoga excels at improving balance with the balance poses. And so we have a class here. This is a Warrior 2. They're performing, and we even have a pregnant woman in there. This is yoga for pregnancy. And I've included now some poses I thought you would enjoy. This is New York City again. This would be a Warrior 1 pose, and then she is reversing it by bringing her arms up and one arm down the leg. So she must be teaching this class on the International Day of Yoga. Beautiful pose. And you'll love this. Perfectly executed Superman pose. Adorable. And this is a very classic pose in yoga. Almost every class, unless it's a Let It Go class, you would be in downward facing dog. The other thing about this pose is that a lot of poses come out of this pose. Sun salutations are up and then back down into dog and then into plank and then into up dog. And so a lot comes out of this pose. It's an active pose and it's also a restorative pose. They're doing a good job of it too. The seated bones are way in the air. They're pressing back through their palms. The energy's in the palms. Half moon pose, also called joy pose. And I sometimes joke at a class that I call it joy pose because if we can get in it, we're going to feel joyful after that. Especially when we're on the beach and we don't have a wall behind us. And we do it and we're successful. Now what's really beautiful about this pose is that she does have the prop of a wall. And in a yoga studio, that's a wonderful compliment. Because alignment, she's using it to align her shoulder, bringing her shoulder more to that sense of the wall, and her hip, her buttocks. And there's very good alignment, and she's using a prop. Now, if I were instructing this class and her foot that is behind her, I would come along and correct her foot. I've been taught to flex the toes towards the head and press through the heel. And that's the only thing that I would do. Otherwise, you can see how beautiful the 90-degree angles are. It is a joyful pose. And tree pose. Again, balance. And to complete this pose, it's not necessary. Oftentimes the arms are extended all the way in the air like branches of a tree. And I'm trying to remember, I love this one. Starting young. He is in suspended lotus, so he has gone into a full lotus posture, an Indian posture, seated, and then he's lifted his whole posture, body behind him, and he seems to be just fine with it. So in conclusion, I think I've done okay here. In my part of the conclusion of the PowerPoint, I have introduced just the rudiment of the Eightfold Path. But there are many texts out there that would be in-depth study. I, in particular, have included one of them that I study. I do study the Bhagavad Gita, and the translation that I use is by Paramahansa Yogananda, and he has a wonderful chapter that goes into detail the Eightfold Path. So if you're interested in studying it a little more deeply and at a scholarly and authoritative level, then I have it. There's a picture of the authoritative chapters is in on the Eightfold Path is in this translation. It's called The Royal Science of God Realization. It's wonderful, 2 volumes, and I'll be studying it forever. And then there's one more thing, and that is if I had one book to recommend that I would recommend to read on yoga and to really enjoy a journey to learn about the royal path of yoga and the absolute vastness and depth of yoga, this is the book I would recommend. Autobiography of a Yogi. Paramahansa Yogananda, and he brought yoga in 1920 to the West, and it has just grown tremendously, his path of Kriya Yoga, the royal yoga, and he introduced it as a science, as well as a philosophy. So that concludes the PowerPoint. Thank you. And there's a little time for some questions, if I can answer them. David?
You mentioned the salutation to the sun.
Sun salutation.
So I'm just wondering, are you recognizing the power of the sun, or what is that about?
That would be the sun can be also called Brahman, the aspect of the power of life and light. And so, I'm certain even in Native American cultures, there's in many cultures, they honor the rising of the sun, they face their doors to the east, they have certain rituals and practices, but in Hatha yoga practice, we can actually do these wonderful sun salutations where we go through a few routines and then we're down again and then we're up again and honoring the sun. And yes.
Is it for the rising of the sun?
Well,
Or at any point in the day?
do you know that that's a good question. I don't have the answer to that. I just know that we happen to do our yoga in the morning, so I honor the sun. Personally, I honor the sun at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. As many sunsets as I can make it to, I go to. So that happens to be personal to me. So from that viewpoint, I'd say yes, from my personal one. I love honoring it in the morning, the first thing, just going out and honoring the sun, and at the end of the day as well. Yes.
I learned with yoga, they allow me to do the sun salutations when it's setting.
Okay, as well, and okay.
But they prefer you to do it when the sun is rising.
Well, thank you for answering that question. So it is, it's kind of a natural thing, natural practice to do the sun salutations when the sun is rising. And then, of course, I would think honoring it as it's setting as well on the day. Yes?
This domain is a foreign language. If I read these two books, will they cover all these terms that we went through? The definitions?
Well, yes, actually they have indexes the indexes are wonderful that way. You would read the terms in these books, but then you still may need to use the index. But why I like these two books is that they're explained very well. I mean, it's yoga is explained. What the terms that are used, they're explained.
Also is there, where did you write out what you presented to us, or is something that we can obtain?
You can obtain it online. You can Google.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll find many formats for the Eightfold Path, and I chose something very simple. Yeah.
Thank you.
But you can find more online. Yes.
Does the practice of yoga decrease cancer and heart disease and all the American medical problems we get as we age?
I can't say it absolutely. Well, the benefits they know empowers the immune system. You said cancer, and what else? Cardiovascular, they know that and then even just reducing stress levels, where people who, it definitely reduces high blood pressure. So the studies show definitely for cardiovascular health, I would say it reduces, could say it reduces heart attack. Cancer, I can't say. Although I believe it very well could, because of its empowering the immune system. But I don't have an absolute answer to that. They're probably...
So yogis die of the old age?
Well, if they're fortunate, they go into Samadhi, Maha Samadhi. But you're right, they don't necessarily get to live old ages. Some of them have passed on younger, but some have lived a very long time. And then their passing is kind of unexplainable. Maybe it's like, well, we'll call it a heart attack, but he just closed his eyes and it seemed like he was just gone.
That's my point. I don't see many people who practice yoga having tumors or being obese or being short of breath or anything.
Right.
People take it up at an elderly age or are doing that as a hobby. That's a different thing. But I suspect, and I know it to be globally accurate, that all the practitioners of yoga who practice it as a worship of their health, not going to the miseries of miserable decline, like the people who do not.
Thank you.
You shared that you started 5 minutes a day, but what got you go,
How did I start that? That's a good question. I started it by the energization that I showed you. Actually, the path that I follow has a full routine, 15-minute routine. And it prepares the body for meditation as well as being very healthy for the body. Directing the life force, tuning in to the life force, deepening the breath, tuning into my own breathing, finding out where am I holding my breath, where, am I in, those kind of things. Becoming conscious of the breath. So I started out doing that, and then I would have a little room down where I was living, and I set it up, and I would listen to chants, and that helped me. I would listen to chants, and then I would use just the fundamental introduction that I was getting at the time to watch my breath. But the chanting or the oming really helped, and it helped to listen to a tape. And later I've become where I do the chants out loud, and then I become very silent and chant silent. But that really helped because just interiorize myself for a little bit. And I didn't expect more from myself. But what happened was my mind really looked forward to it, that time. So something was going on, even though I thought, I'm one of those, I will never be able to still my mind. There's no way that I'm going to become, cease thinking, which is probably primarily true, but something happens even for the briefest moments in meditation that are, it's like something happens, even if it's very brief, that at a deeper level, that nurtures you, even if you're not aware of it, but you become aware of it later in the day or something, you go, oh wow, wait a minute, you have a realization that, my mind must have been off for just a moment, because something else happened, some other information got accessed or inside, maybe retrieved or given. Does that help you? Yeah. Yes?
Now, where does one begin to select a place to go to take up yoga?
Well, that's a good question too. I would get referral. Do you know people who practice yoga? No. There's numerous studios in Ventura and Oxnard, and out at Port Hueneme, they have lovely places, I believe also. So you could inquire, you could call and ask, or go online, see if they have websites, maybe, how we Google just generally the studios, and then you could call and talk to one of the instructors, tell them where you're at with yoga, that you want to begin, and you haven't done yoga before, but you're interested, and you want to have a good introduction, you want to know that you're safe, and any responsible instructor, which I imagine they wouldn't be in a studio if they were not, will guide you in the right direction. Does that help you? Yeah.
Also park and recreation.
Yes, that's a wonderful way. Parks and
Gyms, if you go to a gym,
gyms.
you have yoga classes and they're different.
know, when I went in my gym, there was one I didn't like, it was restorative, and then there was one that was more traditional with chanting, and I liked that one better. So you have, everybody's different, you have to find what you like.
Shelley, you made me think of something as well. The problem in parks and recreation, they're good programs, but oftentimes the surfaces that you're doing yoga on are not pleasant. And you really find that out after you do yoga, maybe on the earth or a studio where they have the right flooring. It's some of these parks and recs places can be where they hold the classes.
You mentioned flooring. What kind of flooring?
Well, you know that dance kind of flooring, they have that's a little, not exactly corkish, but they have floorings they put in some studios for dance or for workouts. I forgot what it's called, but typically wood is a good flooring too, actually. But these floors I've been on in parks and recs, some of them are cement underneath. And that can be hard on the body, and the only problem there is it might not give you a great introduction to yoga. You might think, wow, this is hard. But they are economical to go to Parks and Rec, and that's good. And they do use studios, other places that have decent flooring. And what else did you suggest, Shelley? Your colleges. Do the college have a class? And then also the gyms. Right. Ventura College has yoga, I believe, as well, a class. Yeah.
There's also classes 7 days a week at Oxnard State Beach.
On the beach. Oh, yeah, Google beach yoga as well.
In a park, on the beach, 7 days a week, 2 classes a day. Different types of.
Thank you, Cindy. And, you know, that's becoming very popular because yoga was birthed outdoors. So ideally, it's just wonderful. And look where we live. It's so wonderful to be outdoors.
What if you're shy, you can look on YouTube and enjoy yourself.
I just want to add that everybody likes something different.
Yep.
So you might go to 2 or 3 classes before you find a teacher you really like, and then you follow the teacher. At least that's what I do.
Yes.
I have a mother and a sister who have arthritis, and I'm sure that yoga would help them.
I have arthritis, and it helps wonderfully.
That stretches the joints.
Yeah, and there's certainly different degrees of degeneration and types of arthritis. But I highly recommend yoga, and I think it's very recommended by practitioners and doctors who have a understanding of preventative and restoration. They suggest yoga. Yeah. And arthritis, of course, if we live long enough, I don't think there's not one of us that's not going to get some kind of arthritis. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be debilitating. Yeah. It would help them, I'm sure. And it's so uplifting. I call yoga a profound healing system. It really is. And that's what it's done for my life. I've had injuries that yoga restored me. I was amazed. And I continue to honor yoga that way in my life. It's a profound healing system. And after a yoga class many times on the beach, I can be uncomfortable before I arrive. My body can be like, oh, what's going on? Is this the same body I woke up in yesterday? I've had those experiences before. And then after class, I feel just stability and balanced, and that's the nature of yoga. Integrate Ha, Sun, Tha, Moon, even the Hatha yoga, to integrate and balance and create wholeness. And so it's my experience almost every time that we have yoga class together, as I just feel so stable, strong, and free. There's so much more freedom. Yes?
Do they ever have yoga under full moons at night?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I don't get to participate in that enough, but you know, the Ojai Foundation, I'll bet they do. They have fact, that would be something for me to even look into. But they have, you know, the full moon honorings monthly and new moons. That's a very good question. I'm going to find out, but I'm certain.
I go out hiking by moonlight a lot of times.
Oh,
There's no other experience like it, so it's quiet, there's not many
Yes.
people out there.
yes.
And it's very rewarding, so I imagine yoga would be awesome.
And I'm thinking by the mere action that you're taking, it's a yoga for you. There you are walking in the nature, silence, moonlight. That's yoga as well. Yeah. Thank you so much. Namaste.